Hello, you're watching the English News Bulletin on QPVN channel. I'm Nguyễn, and now let me keep you up to date with the headlines. President LUONG outlines 3 priorities for APEC. ADMM 19, ASEAN Unity for Security and Prosperity. Vietnam launches national report on 30 years of implementing Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. On October the 31st at the Gyeongju International Convention Center in the Republic of Korea, following the official welcome ceremony for APEC leaders, President LUONG attended and spoke at the first session of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting 2025. The meeting gathered leaders and heads of delegation from 21 APEC members' economies under the theme Toward a Resilient, Connected, and Forward-Looking Asia-Pacific. Discussions centered on promoting trade and investment amid global uncertainty and enhancing public-private partnerships to unlock the region's growth potential. In his remarks, President LUONG emphasized the urgent need to strengthen connectivity and resilience, particularly for developing economies. He called on APEC to focus on removing bottlenecks in supply chains and infrastructure through digitalization, improving logistics and transport networks, harmonizing cross-border data and payment systems, and narrowing technology gaps. He also urged the forum to accelerate trade and investment cooperation through regional and WTO frameworks, while supporting small and medium-sized enterprises in accessing capital, technology, and markets to adapt and thrive in the digital era. Amidst macroeconomic volatility, the president highlighted that a solid microeconomic foundation is essential for long-term growth, stressing the private sector's vital role in sustaining development. He affirmed that as host of APEC 2027, Vietnam will work closely with members to deepen economic linkages, promote green growth, and foster an environment conducive to cooperation and sustainable progress. On the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, President LUONG met with Sultan of Brunei Hassan Al Bolkiah. President LUONG welcomed the Sultan's upcoming visit to Vietnam in 2025 and reaffirmed Vietnam's readiness to maintain high-level contacts and exchanges across all channels. The state leader called for effective realization of the action plan on the implementation of the Vietnam-Brunei Comprehensive Partnership in the 2023-2027. He emphasized enhanced cooperation in the 4 priority areas of oil and gas, chemicals, halal food processing, tourism, and people-to-people exchange. Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah expressed his hope for stronger development of the relations with Vietnam, agreed with the proposals of President LUONG, and congratulated Vietnam on its re-election to the UN Human Rights Council for 2026-2028 term. The Sultan praised Vietnam's increasingly active role in promoting multilateral cooperation in the world and will continue supporting capacity building for Vietnamese officials. Both leaders concurred to promote solidarity, unity, and maintenance of ASEAN's central role in the region. They pledged to strengthen cooperation in regional and international issues of mutual concern, including the East Sea issue, the acceleration of negotiations for a substantive and effective COC in the East Sea, in line with international law, especially the 1982 UN clause. The same day in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, a high-ranking delegation from the Ministry of National Defense of Vietnam, led by General Phan Văn Giao, Minister of National Defense, attended the 19th ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting, or ADMM 19 in short. The meeting was chaired by Malaysian Defense Minister Dato Seri Mohamed Khaled bin Nordin. Other defense ministers of ASEAN countries also attended the meeting. In the context of the current global uncertainties, the Malaysian Minister of Defense affirmed that ASEAN continues to be seen as a beacon of solidarity and close affection. ASEAN is a proof of harmony, connected and guided by common interest and values of peace, a partnership for peace based on respect for the independence and sovereignty of each country, resolving disputes by peaceful means, promoting substantive cooperation. On behalf of the high-ranking delegation of the Vietnamese Ministry of National Defense, General Phan Van Giang reaffirmed Vietnam's strong support for Malaysia in successfully fulfilling its role as ASEAN chair in 2025. I strongly believed that the Malaysian Ministry of National Defense would successfully assume the role of ASEAN chair in 2025, continuing to strengthen ASEAN solidarity and strength in response to security and challenges in the region in a flexible and proactive way for a peaceful, secure, and resilient region. I would like to congratulate Timor-Leste as the new member of ASEAN and congratulate the new Defense Minister of Laos, Singapore, and Thailand. At the ADMM 19, the delegates are briefed on the results of ASEAN Defense Senior Officials meeting, adopted 8 new initiatives in the ADMM, adopted the 3rd supplementary procedure document for the establishment of ADMM and ADMM Plus concept paper, organized the ASEAN Republic of Korea Defense Industry Cooperation Workshop, held the ASEAN Plus One Defense Ministers informal meetings, organized the ASEAN Plus One maritime exercises, agreed on the agenda of the 12th ADMM Plus conference. The conference adopted the joint statement by the ASEAN defense ministers on the implementation of the ASEAN Political Security Community Strategic Plan of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and the Kuala Lumpur Joint Declaration of the ADMM on ASEAN Unity for Security and Prosperity. Later that day, the defense ministers of Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia jointly chaired a joint meeting. At the meeting, the defense ministers of the 3 countries assessed that in a volatile world and region, all 3 countries have maintained political stability and continued to achieve important results in socio-economic development, national defense, and security. Cooperation among the 3 countries is enhanced. Particularly, defense and security cooperation has always been an important pillar in the overall relationship among the 3 countries. The defense ministers of the 3 countries agreed on the contents of practical cooperation, continuing to consolidate and further tighten the solidarity and close relationship among the 3 countries and militaries, firmly maintaining the stance of not allowing any hostile force to use the territory of one country to harm the interest of another. At the same time, increasing the exchange of situations and effective consultation with the 3 countries' senior leaders on military and defense, strengthening cooperation in border management and protection, contributing to building a peaceful, cooperative, and sustainably developed border. The countries will continue to enhance coordination among the 3 countries' militaries in responding to non-traditional security challenges. Also, on this occasion, Defense Minister Phan Van Giang had a bilateral meeting with his Malaysian counterpart, Dato Seri Utama Haji Mohamed bin Haji Hassan. This year, Malaysia is the host country of the 19th ADMM and the 12th ADMM+. At the meeting, the 2 ministers agreed to coordinate and direct respective relevant agencies to effectively implement the areas in which both sides have potential and strength, focusing on exchanging delegations at all levels, maintaining training cooperation, researching such potential cooperation areas as defense industry, logistics, military medicine, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, coordinating and supporting each other at multilateral forums and mechanisms. General Phan Van Giang highly lauded Malaysia's foreign policy and contributions as ASEAN Chairmanship 2025, which have promoted the central role and solidarity of ASEAN, and hoped that the maritime law enforcement agencies of the 2 countries would strengthen coordination, information exchange, cooperation, assistance to each other's fishing vessels and fishermen at sea, and sustainable fisheries development, in accordance with the relations between the 2 countries and the spirit of ASEAN solidarity. On October the 31st, a signing ceremony was held at the headquarters of the Vietnam's Ministry of National Defense for the Memorandum of Understanding between the Vietnamese Ministry of National Defense and the U.S. Department of War and the U.S. Department of State on strengthening cooperation in war legacy remediation. Sing Lieutenant General Hong Sen-chien, Deputy Minister of National Defense and head of the Standing Agency of the National Steering Committee 701, and Mr. Mark Evan Neppers, U.S. Ambassador to Vietnam, co-chaired the signing ceremony. The MOU aims to realize commitments made by senior leaders of both countries in 2023 joint statement elevating Vietnam-U.S. relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership for peace, cooperation, and sustainable development. It is also based on the 2024 Joint Vision Statement on Defense Cooperation, as was in the 2011 Defense Cooperation MOU, updated in 2022. The document focuses on advancing cooperation in 5 major areas, addressing post-war contamination of explosive remnants of war in Vietnam, improving the quality of life for persons with disabilities, regardless of cause, particularly in provinces heavily affected by Agent Orange, remediation of dioxin contamination at Bien Hoa Air Base area, sustaining support for the search, recovery, and identification of remains of Vietnamese martyrs, and strengthening comprehensive cooperation in the search for U.S. personnel missing in action in the Vietnam War. Speaking at the ceremony, Ambassador Mark Napper reaffirmed the U.S.' strong, consistent commitment to working with Vietnam in overcoming war consequences, emphasizing that this cooperation contributes substantially to bilateral defense ties and to the broader Vietnam-U.S. comprehensive strategic partnership. Senior Lieutenant General Hoàng Xuân Chiến highlighted the significance of the MOU, stressing that it reflects the strong mutual commitment to advancing cooperation in war legacy remediation. He noted that the signing is particularly meaningful as the two countries commemorate the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations and takes place just ahead of the official visit to Vietnam by the U.S. Secretary of War on November the 2nd and the 3rd.
Coming up next, Vietnam and UK step up education collaboration. Vietnam launches national report on 30 years of implementing Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Within the framework of the official visit to the UK by Party General Secretary Do Lam, his spouse, and the high-ranking Vietnamese delegation, Minister of Education and Training Nguyễn Kim Sơn had a bilateral meeting with Baroness Jackie Smith, U.S. Minister of Education in charge of skills, to discuss major orientations for the education, training, and skills development partnership between the two countries.
The two sides agreed to foster cooperation in teacher training and education policy development, under which the UK will assist Vietnam in teacher training, policy making to make English the second language, and integrating international education programs into Vietnam's national education system. The two sides concurred on intensifying academic exchanges and encouraging the establishment of new joint programs, while expanding cooperation among universities, vocational institutions, and secondary schools through exchanges of lecturers, researchers, and students, particularly in such areas as artificial intelligence, semiconductors, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, and aerospace. Minister Nguyễn Kim Sơn and Deputy Minister Jackie Smith signed a letter of intent and agreed to expedite discussions towards signing a new Memorandum of Understanding on cooperation to provide a legal framework for expanding and effectively carrying out upcoming joint programs.
On October the 31st in Hanoi, the Ministry of Home Affairs coordinated with the UN Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women, or UN Women, to organize a conference to announce the national report on 30 years of implementing Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action in Vietnam.
The Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action were adopted at the 4th World Conference on Women held in Beijing, China in 1995, with the participation of 189 countries to commit to realizing the concerns and rights of women around the world by the end of the 20th century. Speaking at the conference, Deputy Minister of Home Affairs Nguyễn Thị Hà emphasized that economic development must be associated with social progress and equity, placing women and children at the center of development policy. Representative of UN Women in Vietnam, Caroline Naya Mombe, affirmed that The organization would continue to accompany the government of Vietnam on the journey to realize gender equality for a fair, inclusive, and sustainable society. In recent times, Vietnam has made significant progress in 2024, ranked 72nd out of 146 countries in last year's Global Gender Equality Index, moving up 11 places compared to 2022. Women now hold more than 30% of seats in National Assembly and accounted for nearly half of the national workforce. The report summarizes Vietnam's three-decade journey of efforts for gender equality, affirming Vietnam's political determination to realize international commitments in association with the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030.
And that's all for now. Remember, you can always watch the news again at QPVN.vn. Thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.